In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch. The story isn't over. You and the audience are part of the conflict. What has happened so far and what is happening now is far from encouraging. How we meet the communist challenge depends on you.
Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing something a little different. It's going to be a reading challenge. So I have 3 days to try to complete as many books as I possibly can. I do work as well, so that does pose a challenge to the amount of books that I can actually get to. But I'm still, I'm still pumped, I'm still hyped, I'm still excited. I have 3 books that were extremely anticipated for February. So we're going to see if we can tackle The Lovely Bones, Malcolm X's Autobiography as told to Alex Haley. I have already started this and so far so good. I like it. I'm only at the foreword and it's actually written by his son, who I was questioning who this person was earlier, Sebold. Yeah, so that's who wrote the foreword. It's kind of like a love letter almost to his father and to the people of the world, or to people who read this book, as to hey, this is quite incredible what my father's legacy is, and etc, etc. So things like that. So foreword is pretty good. And then I didn't have this in my TBR, but I'm going to just throw it in here to see if there's a possibility that I can tackle Lois Lari's The Giver. So again, this is a book that's exactly 180 pages. Okay, so hopefully this is like a fast read for me. I have read this before and I'm super excited to dive right into this as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Incredible. It was so cold today, like -8 degrees. This road trip water bottle, you know how you get those at the gas station because you get thirsty, it froze. Can you believe that? I thought that was pretty cool. Okay guys, so I just wanted to quickly pop in just to give you an update on my reading. So we have been reading the Malcolm X book, and this is how much I've done and this is how much I have left. So I really want to like this book, but there are certain just sentences and phrases and certain things that are like being presented in the text that are just like, what is this? I love his story of, you know, where he came from and, you know, his background pretty much. So I really do enjoy that. And I think it's really interesting how he ended up in prison, because he was committing crimes. He was like doing smuggling and dealings and drug deals and just a bunch of like criminal activity. So, you know, he didn't deserve to go to jail for as long as he did, the way that they explained it in the book. But I can understand how he ended up in jail and, you know, the unfairness of it all, because I think he was supposed to be sentenced about 2 years and he was sentenced 10 years for a crime that had to deal with like burglary and robbery and things of that sort. So yeah, you're just following his story and how he kind of came into Islam. This is where we're having like the very drastic change in the language and in the thought processes and just the view of the world. And that's where I'm having a little bit of a struggle. I'm still not done with the book, obviously, but yeah, it's just a little bit distressing to keep reading, but I want to see even further how his life is going to progress all the way into the 60s, where the civil rights explosion really happened. So I know that a lot of different narratives and different stories have been, you know, told about him. So, you know, I really just want to kind of get to the end of the book to make my final assessment, but it's a great story. I am listening to the audiobook and following along, and the audiobook is done by the one and only Joe Morton. If you know who that is, he's this guy who was in Smallville. He's Silas from Justice League. He's played in a Muhammad Ali film. He was in Scandal.
I am the hell and the high water.
He was in the X-Files. He's all over the place. I think he might have been not American Gangster, but I don't know. But he's been in so many movies and he's quite iconic. So he's awesome. And his voice is just, ooh. He's the one to read this. So very, very good. I really like the story, but I'm talking about like the subcontext, like what is the messaging of the story? What are they trying to tell you? What are you supposed to grasp out of this, you know? So that's where I'm having a little bit of like a struggle there, but phenomenal story, really. It's like, it's crazy good. I'm at the part where he's meeting his wife, Betty X, and they are pretty much getting together, and I believe they just got married. Yeah. Also, if you didn't know, the X for the last name of those who are in the Islam community, nation of Islam, they signify that X to be their last name because they don't know their true original last name, because, you know, the concept of like you were, you know, brought from Africa and you were dispersed here into a different land where you had to get a slave master's last name, and that has been disseminated down to different generations. So X is like a no name almost. It's like that represents the African forefathers and the ancestors. And then once you die, according to them, of course, Allah, their God, is going to give you your holy name. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because you always, you know, you're curious about certain things, and that is explained in the book. Something that is controversial as well is that I have heard about these different takes about Alex Haley. You know, I have been reading Roots as well alongside with this, and doing my research, I've seen a lot of like controversy about plagiarism and things of that sort with these different books. I don't like necessarily these autobiographies to be kind of like anecdotal, hearsay, unverified, untrue things. That is so not okay to me, because it's like, this is why you come to find, you know, the person's life story. You want it to be quite clear and factual and, you know, as close to the truth as possible. So I'm a little dicey with that as well. So that's Malcolm X. Okay, so The Lovely Bones, as you can see, a smile is coming up on my face because this one is fictional, and I know, of course, it, you know, reflects the author's experiences as well, but this is a fictional story that obviously I know because of the film, and I'm aware of some of the aspects of the story. So immediately we're told that Susie Salmon is murdered. We go through the horrendous, traumatic, the R word. I don't want to say it, you know, but the R word, and between Harvey and Susie, and it is just so, I was so upset. Like, it is really something that will piss you off reading that. It is really just like, it got into me. I was like, oh my God, this is awful, just awful. And dang, you know, just dang. She's in heaven with her, like, her, I forget what they call her. Ugh, I'm sorry, I'm reading. I just saw, like, tell me you love me from Mr. Harvey. It's awful. It is awful. Just right off the bat, we are brought into that scene. Like, she's gone right then and there. And he's so sly, saying to, you know, her mom, and that happens when a lot of criminals, you know, just inject themselves into the crime. It's like, yeah, I heard about that. You know, I'm the criminal, imagine. And I'm talking to the victim's mother. Yeah, I heard about that. I really hope she's all right. It'd be a dang shame. You never know what goes on around here. You son of a gun. You son of a gun. Like, I could just jump into this book and bash this guy's head in. I am so furious. And of course, I'm only at the very beginning, but let's see what she's written about Mr. Harvey and his interactions with the people of the town and what exactly happens. Because I know towards the very end of the film, this is such an old film, so spoiler, he like gets hit with an icicle and then falls down a cliff into a pile of snow, and that's his demise and his end. Like, nobody will find you there. You'll die without being buried and without memorial or remembrance. Ugh. Anyway, I'm really liking this. Love the writing, just straight to the point, easy to follow. Love this so far. And I'm really liking this so far, as I said, but it's just, you know, it has some controversy and just certain things that just make you feel a little uneasy, but my eyes are peeled and wide open to what is being stated here. I'm really enjoying my read so far. Okay, you guys, I just had to quickly pop in because it's popping off in the book. So like, and by the way, I changed my earrings because I just can't decide. Because I just don't know.
Oh, because I just don't know.
Oh my gosh, so I suspected this could happen. This guy, Elijah Muhammad, who says that he's I think, and I really do apologize because I don't know the details of this religion, but Elijah Muhammad, who apparently is like the person who kind of intercedes a little bit between Allah and then the Nation of Islam folks, from what I understood, he got into some kind of moral problems, some moral disputes and issues that have really like kind of shocked the Nation of Islam and have of course shocked Malcolm X. He's so darn baffled that, you know, this person could commit such a grave, depraved and awful thing such as adultery. That's what the leader has been accused of. But yeah, I'm like, that's what it is. So the worst part about this whole situation that I now am coming up to, and I promise I won't droll on for too long, is that of course this guy, Elijah Muhammad, the leader of this movement, he basically speaks about Malcolm behind his back, and it's not too pleasant and nice. And of course he finds out about this, and he's like one of the greatest ministers for that population, and it's like a bit of a shock to see, you know, this is what it is. So I was like, from what I understand too, and I'm not quite there yet, we still have a ways to go, he starts moving away from the Nation of Islam towards the end of his life, which is really going to be interesting. I'll comment on it at the end of the video because by then I'm certain I will be finished within the next hour or two. Yeah, things are popping off. And one other thing that has popped off, if you can see my little, people are always calling me. I'm so famous. I think that's my sister. Hey, girly. Yay! I just said, I think that's my, I was filming. I was like, I think that's my sister. Oh, no. I know.
No one's like, we're keeping that.
Yeah, I know, right? Hang on, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I got to answer the door, there was a delivery, and I spoke to my sister. So what I was saying, because I'm kind of all out of sorts a little bit, is that things were popping off, including the assassination of JFK. And Malcolm had made a remark about it and, you know, gave his input and whatnot. And people in the Nation of Islam are not too fond of him at this point in his life. So yeah, basically the part that I'm in the background like, oh hell no. Oh no. It's pretty much, people want his head. They want to kill him. Like, he's in extreme danger at this point in time because it's like he's so popular and famous and such a celebrity in so many words that he is quite hated and sought after by certain people. So yeah, that's the point of that. Quick update on the lovely Bones. It's so sad. It's so sad. The way that you see the perspective of like Susie in heaven, just looking down on her family and how they're living their lives is just so like, oh, I can't. It is so sad. Her thoughts about what she would have done differently, and like how she can just kind of peer into everybody's life and just, you know, come in and out and just still be with them but not really be with them is just, it's absolutely heartbreaking. So far the father suspects Mr. Harvey. The sister Lindsay, she's like, she's kind of like angsty and upset right now, and she's going through her teen years. They were lying to the little brother, I think Buckley is it, for so long, trying not to give him the truth because he's only like 4 years old. The mom is so like recoiled in her own little corner, and the father is just kind of on the hunt for this guy at this point. Yeah, and I really just love the commentary that Susie is making on her life. It's so sad. It is really so sad. So every time my nose tickles and eyes start to well up a little bit, but not to the point where I'm like,
come on, dude.
crying, but it is terribly sad. Alrighty, you guys, so this is like day 3 of our challenge. I finished up Malcolm X's book and I finished up The Lovely Bones. I'm just so all out of sorts. I really am just in like in a bad way. I feel disturbed and shook and like as if, you know, I've been put in a blender, especially for The Lovely Bones. Yeah, I can't tell you. I'm a little bit upset too because it's like you find out towards the very end this act that Susie does that just kind of makes her like Mr. Harvey, and it's like, what? I just am so happy to move on, and I don't know, like I feel just so like weird about it. Like, you know, I started off the book like I was saying in my, you know, previous clips or whatever. I started out the book and I was like, oh, this is really good so far, you know, I really like the direction it's taking, and then it just started to just get progressively worse and worse and worse, and I'm like, it's not even that, oh, it's because it's like a depressing and sad story and whatnot. It's just that, I don't know, I think it's the way that the author presented it. So I'm giving you vague stuff, but you definitely have to read the book. But anyway, we are on Lois Lowry, her book, The Giver. So Ish is scary. So this gives me 1984 feels. This gives me The Handmaid's Tale feels. Pleasantville, The Truman Show.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
It gives me all of these kind of dystopian societies and communities and sectors of different stories that have been, you know, told in the past. Basically, we're following Jonah. I don't know why I'm always stuck on Jonah from A Sleepless in Seattle. But basically, we're following Jonas, who is an 11-year-old who's about to have his ceremony. The language in the book is very much so like, we must follow the rules. You wouldn't want to get released. You know, certain terms are being, you know, stated, and you just kind of get the feeling that you're kind of constantly being watched, you're constantly being scrutinized and measured and assessed and whatnot, and that rules are law here, truly. So yeah, Jonas, he's 11 years old. He has a mother and father who apparently are not his birth parents, and he also has a younger sister named Lily. At 12 years of age, he's going to have the ceremony where he will be assigned a job that he will do for the rest of his life in the community. So we kind of find out that his parents kind of grew up in this community, and that, you know, these are law-abiding people. His father is what they consider like a doctor. He's named a nurturer for babies, so a pediatrician, I would think. His mother works for pretty much the DOJ, the Department of Justice, so some type of lawyer or justice figure. Everybody has a role, even to the point where the people who have the babies for 3 years only have babies for 3 years. They're breeders in a sense, and then they go off to be laborers. So it also kind of gives me the feels of a Divergent, the different factions and that whole kind of dystopian society where you belong in this category and you don't mingle here, or else you'll be ostracized and outcasted into, I guess, being factionless and being released, which is on the outskirts and the outside of the community. So one special thing that has happened, Jonas has a friend named Asher who's quite like a little goofy, bumbling best friend who doesn't seem to really have a place in the community. He always gets in trouble and he's not really the brightest one in the bunch. He and Asher were playing a game of catch where they're just throwing this apple back and forth, and then something happens mid-air apparently, where something happens to the apple and Jonas says that it changed. And what I'm thinking the color of it changed. I think it probably became bright red, and he doesn't know what that is because I think everything in the community is supposed to be black and white and gray and just completely bland and bleh, you know? So it also gives me Pleasantville feelings as well. So it's a whole combination of this enclosed society that has to follow these kind of authoritarian rules and this regime that's just kind of completely controlled. You don't really have much liberty or freedoms or free will to do anything. Even Jonah's taking the apple home was completely against the rules. Somebody came up on a speakerphone and told the community, please remember that you're not to hoard food or whatever. And it's like, even though they didn't call him out by name, everybody knows that it was Jonas. So it's like, you know, it's just, it's kind of freaky. It's kind of freaky. Yeah, I think that's the most that I have to say about this. I'm definitely going to finish this up today for sure. It's so darn small and slim that we're going to wrap this up today for sure. So I'll catch you guys probably in the outro and let you know my thoughts on this. Really quickly, so I got to the part of the book, The Giver, where Jonas had like a very fantastical and pleasant dream, if you know what I mean, for somebody his age. So he just kind of envisioned like a girl in the community that he liked, and he wanted to bathe her because he actually was in like kind of like a bathhouse for the elderly as a volunteer opportunity. So basically, just to kind of clarify, those who are about 8 to 12, I think they do like volunteer opportunities all over the community, whether that might be architectural stuff or teaching, or maybe you might work at the hospital as a nurturer, or gardening or labor, or, you know, whatever. Different areas of the community that have to deal with work. So one of the volunteer opportunities that Jonas did was to go and help clean the elderly. So basically, he is there with his friend Asher and another buddy of his, Fiona, I believe. And the next morning, this ritual in the community again is to talk about your feelings and to talk about your dreams and to let it all out. So Jonah did just that. He's like, oh, I had a strange dream. And he was like embarrassed to even tell it. And he just kind of rushed through it and say, I wanted her to, you know, take off her clothes and so I could bathe her, but she wouldn't. And I just felt so angry and so embarrassed about that. And the family, including the father, the mother, and his sister Lily, heard the dream as usual. And they said, thank you for your dream. Like, so strange. And his mom went ahead and just spoke to him about how it's time for the pills for the stirring. And like, damn. So yeah, it's time for him to take some pills because he had a dream like that, which is just so like, oh my gosh, this is so intense. Oh, another thing that I wanted to quickly mention as well was that the children, they end up getting comfort toys or comfort items and whatnot, and they are pretty much animals. So his sister Lily got a comfort toy that was like an elephant, but they don't know that it's called an elephant. They're like, oh, they're make-believe, you know what I mean? So they have no clue about animals out there, which is just so interesting. It just kind of reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. His platypus bear? Surely you mean his skunk bear.
You mean platypus bear?
No, it just says bear.
Certainly you mean his pet skunk bear.
Or his armadillo bear? Gopher bear?
Just bear.
No, just bear. This place is weird. You know what I mean? I totally didn't get it. I don't think they ever said skunk bear, but you know what I mean? Like, they just don't know anything about animals. It's like, where are they? That's what I want to know. Where the heck are they? But I like it. I really do. And it's like completely refreshing to step away from both Malcolm X and The Lovely Bones as well. This is uplifting me. I hope I don't get into a reading slump because of those books, because I'm like, well, Malcolm X was better than The Lovely Bones. Lovely Bones might be the lowest rated book that I've read this month. So as I'm progressing in the book, I want to go ahead and make myself some tea since it is quite cold outside still. I don't know, the temperature just keeps fluctuating. It goes up and down, up and down. I went ahead and put on my hoodie, and I have my Grinch pants that I'm always wearing in different videos, even though it's not Christmas. I want to show you guys the cup that I just got at IKEA the other day. I've been wanting a beautiful clear glass cup for coffee and for tea making and just in general because it's so gorgeous and minimal looking. So here it is. It's just this really pretty one that I need to wash. Of course, I haven't even used it because it still has a little label on there, the price tag. So it's article 902-797-24, just in case if you wanted to look it up. It was quite inexpensive and just, it's so pretty. Yeah, so I think for the first time, you guys, I think I'm going to make tea and add creamer or milk to it. I've never done that before and I want to try that. Of course, I've had like, you know, bubble teas and things of that sort, you know, in the past and whatnot, but it's always some kind of professional or curated something done by somebody else, you know, in a restaurant or, you know, a coffee shop or something. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and try tea with some kind of milk creamer for the first time because I'm so curious. I don't know, I just want to try that so badly. I don't know if I'm gonna do lemongrass, which is one of my favorites, or peppermint. I think we'll do peppermint.
Here we go, it's all about you, it's all about me, it's all about what we do. Making art, you and me, trying to find something to believe. Because I'm running wild, I ain't running free. Still got a lot of shit left to see. I'm stuck in this town, and the town's stuck in me. Always trying to find another reason to leave, but we sit at home, all alone. Hoping one day I'll never be known. Cause I'm stuck on the bottom, trying to feel on top. Wishing everything would just come to a stop.
Okay guys, so I did end up making the peppermint tea. I put a splash of cranberry juice in there, and I also, whoa, TV's coming alive, or maybe shutting down. But yeah, I put a splash of cranberry juice concentrate in there for color, and then I put a splash of creamer. It did not work out. Don't do that. I don't know if it's the acidity in the cranberry juice and the creamer that mixed, but it pretty much curdled. It was the weirdest, grossest looking thing that you did not want to happen. I thought I was just making hot tea. I don't know if the tea is supposed to be, like, the temperature of the tea should be warm before I add the cold creamer. But yeah, it was not good. I don't want anybody to have an unpleasant experience at home if you do want to do that. So again, it was hot water, tea bag, splash of cranberry juice, and then a splash of creamer, and just something with the chemicals and the chemistry of it all just made it separated and curd, and I just don't know what exactly happened. It was not pleasant looking. I did taste it though.
Drink cactus juice. It'll quench you.
And I like the taste of the peppermint tea with a cranberry concentrate, but I couldn't even taste the creamer, so it was a fail. Maybe with milk it might work, but I don't know. We're gonna have to try that again. Please tell me what I did wrong, or if you guys have any ideas as to why that would happen. So I wanted to be, you know, honest and truthful, and I wanted to level with you, let me level with you, and just let you know that I made something else that's quite delicious. Very Christmassy feels too. So this is just a bit of creamer and some Tennessee whiskey, so Jack Daniel's sour mash, number 7 I think it is. It is so darn good. It feels like Bailey's pretty much. If I had like to quickly kind of put Bailey's down into a cup, this is like not a bad version to do so. It's so good, you guys. It's like, I've never had eggnog before, but I can imagine this is what it is. Or this delicious Haitian drink that we also have. It's called crémasse. So this is something that's very close to that. My mom will probably really like this because I used a creamer that's like almond, what is it called? Almond Joy creamer, because that was the last one in stock. Y'all should see the grocery store. Sometimes the shelves are empty and you can't find jack diddly squat. But Jesus, that was not too fun to happen to me. The curdling effect, that was gross. So yeah, I trashed that and I just made something else that was far more delicious and far more forgiving. But yeah, so still I'm doing the giver. We are at the ceremony right now of the 12s, and Jonas has been passed. Like, they passed over him and continued down the row, giving the kids their assignments. You're gonna be a nurturer, you're gonna be an engineer, you're gonna be a laborer, you're gonna be a breeder, etc., etc. And he's like, what the heck? Of course, he's special. He's like a divergent, isn't he? So we're gonna find out what the heck is going on with him. Alrighty, you guys. So I just wanted to pop in here and say goodbye. We did have a really good 3-day book challenge. I think I got to actually reach my goals of trying to read as many books as possible, because we started out by saying we're going to do The Giver and Malcolm X's book, and as well as The Lovely Bone. So we actually did just that. I finished up The Giver not too long ago, and that was my favorite read out of the 3. Next time I'll try to push in even more, because the clock is still running on our 3 days. So we really kind of finished these 3 books in about like 2.5 days, which I think is quite impressive. But just to kind of quickly give you some of my thoughts and feelings about everything, yeah, this one is the lowest rated book that I have, probably probably for the whole month of February, as well as for this video, of course. I just really don't like the direction that the story took. I don't necessarily like Alice Sebold's writing, and it just had a lot of problems that I will definitely divulge in the wrap up, but you know, succinctly and to the point. They really just like perverted Susie's character. She truly kind of becomes Mr. Harvey towards the very end of the book, and I'm like, what is going on here? She kind of possesses an old friend to be with somebody that she liked when she was 13 years old, right before she died. So somebody that she had a first kiss with, and I'm just like, no, this is not okay. This is not good. I don't like it. I don't feel it. No, just the direction that it went was just like, ugh. And her writing is just outrageous a little bit too. Like, and I'm not somebody who's a lit student. I'm not somebody who knows like sentence structure, but you know, I've read quite a few books, and I think I know when something's enjoyable and when something is beautiful and like well done enough to point it out. You know what I mean? She uses a plethora of synonyms. Like, you are completely force-fed these. Did I say synonyms? I misspoke. Similes. Just too much. So that's the Lovely Bones. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about that. Okay, so the next book that we have is Malcolm X's autobiography, as told to Alex Haley. Again, I heard a lot of controversy between the way that some of these stories have been disseminated and like, you know, brought out into the public. They say that there's a lot of plagiarism that's done around Alex Haley, so that makes me feel completely like dicey and sketchy and like, what is going on? It makes me like turned off to his works. You know what I mean? Now I'm going to seek out the books that have apparently been plagiarized. So I'm seeking those books out, and eventually, maybe not this year, but eventually I will read, and I want to see the similarities and the contrasts and differences to see what exactly matches up and syncs up. So I don't know. I really did enjoy this book. Again, I'll give you my rating in the wrap up. I loved the struggle, the hard work that it took for him to transition into the character that, you know, he became towards the very, not the character, the man that he became towards the very end of his life. It was so tragic the way that he died in front of his children and his wife, his family. And it seems so commonplace back then. It doesn't matter if you were in the NAACP or, you know, trying to do civil rights acts and movements, and you're pro desegregation, you're trying to, you know, bring the country together and whatnot. It just sucks how so many people, RFK, MLK, Malcolm X, JFK, blown away, what else do I have to say, etc. You have so many others who were just straight up assassinated. It's like, where is the safety in the 60s? You would think it would have been like, you know, the modern day, what it was, of course, and that especially after JFK's assassination, you would have more security measures, which is just so infuriating because he could have lived until the 90s even, you know what I mean, until the 21st century. So yeah, I think that really just like, gut punch. It's good that I think the country really rallied and like followed more of MLK's philosophies. I think that we're in a better position today by following MLK's kind of thought processes and his positions on racial disputes and things of that sort. Malcolm X is quite incredible and amazing as well in certain aspects. There was the Malcolm X pre-Nation of Islam and Malcolm X after the Nation of Islam. He was still Muslim, I believe, towards the very end of his life, but it's like you can tell there was a serious difference pre and after Nation of Islam. And that really is just what I guess a lot of people were like, okay, what is going on? This guy is a little bit not really for the country. He's a little bit violent. Like, a lot of things are misconstrued and quite unveiled and revealed in this book. Like, this is not who he was. So I really appreciated this book. Yeah, I almost actually put it down. Like, I almost DNF'd it. Did not finish. If you ever hear me say that term, it's quite popular on BookTube. But yes, I almost did a DNF, my first DNF, because I was like, oh, this is too much. This is like hitting me. The onslaught of the way that the character, not the character, but the way that the text was written, I was like, this is outrageous. Like, this is making me upset. But yeah, I finished it and I'm glad to have read it. Life-changing, not necessarily, but you know, happy to have another book in my arsenal. You know what I mean? And then finally, the last read of the 3-day book challenge, we did The Giver by Lois, Lari. I love this so much. I really did like it. It's like very dystopian thriller-like, you know, sci-fi. It is a children's book, so it went so fast, you guys, so fast. I love Jonas's character, our hero character. I love his questioning of everything. I love his intrigue in asking a bunch of important questions. As I said, this is very dystopian, so 1984 feels, the Truman Show feels. So we're gonna be like bringing up themes of like government surveillance and ethics and, you know, individualism and all of those kind of things, morality. So it just, oh, it's so good. It's like a political book as well in a sense. And I just think that this book really just, I don't know, it helped me to really get away from the Lovely Bones, which was the book I read before. Malcolm X's was pretty good towards the end. It was starting to like, you know, stew and bubble up and become really delectable towards the very end. The beginning was really beautiful. The middle was like questionable. What's going on here? And then towards the end, it was like way better. But yeah, The Giver, I highly recommend this book. I really enjoyed it. And I think though it does have its problems, of course. You kind of want a little bit more details about the community. You want a little bit more character build up. You want to be more connected to Jonas's friends that he mentioned, Fiona and Asher. You want some more details about his family life and stuff like that. So it kind of was a little bit rushed through. It could have used maybe an extra 75 pages, 100 pages to build up a little bit more. And even the ending was quite abrupt and ambiguous, so it really just left you wanting more, to need to know more, you know what I mean? So it's like, what's going on here? But overall, I could see this as being a highly rated book and, you know, quite beloved. I really did enjoy it, and I hope you guys do too. So those are the 3 books that we did this video. I'm so happy to have another chunk of stuff. This was a reread for me because I read this, I believe, in middle school, and I was like, let's just reread it. And I found it so interesting. I was able to remember certain things that were about to happen, even though that was such a long time ago. Yeah, some things in here are quite sad. Like it'll destroy you a little bit, and it kind of destroyed Jonas, which made him such a hero character. Really just was like, oh, this guy's amazing. Yeah, Malcolm X's book was a first time read, and The Lovely Bones was a first time read as well. Alrighty, you guys, so the very next video you'll see from me is my wrap up. We're going to be keeping it very succinct and to the point, since we literally did a reading vlog with practically all of the books, so we're not going to dwell on it too much. I want to thank you so much for coming along with me. Next time I will do a better job of keeping track of where I am in the 3-day book challenge. I think I didn't do too great of a job of letting you know, like, hey, this is day 2, this is day 2.5, we're at this point. So we'll be a little bit more specific and more detailed next time we do a 3-day book challenge or some kind of challenge. But yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for watching, and I will see you in my very next video. Bye.